Good afternoon and welcome to Student Hub Live. Well, this is our FASS, Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, New Curriculum Showcase 2020. And my name's Karen Foley. I'm delighted to be hosting this to find out all about some of the new curriculum from the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences at the Open University. Now, some of you I know in this live event have been here all morning and we've been talking about careers. And I've really enjoyed it. There's been so many ideas and inspiration. So now we turn our focus onto some new modules. And I know that some of you are very interested in deciding on new pathways. Some people are here to meet academics from the faculty and meet other students. And others of you are here to try and plan future degrees and qualifications. So if you are new to Student Hub Live, this is the Open University's online interactive platform, and we run a whole heap of events for students to facilitate academic community. We run events like this to tell you about new modules we've got, but we also run study skills workshops, and we'll be ramming up those before modules start to update you on some key study skills before the October dates commence. But today we're going to be hearing all about a range of new modules, and you can take a look at the programme on the Student Hub Live website to find out exactly when they're on and who's going to be delivering them. But for now, enjoy the chat, and I'm joined by the fabulous HJ, who is going to be moderating all your questions. HJ, how are you today and whereabouts are you?
I'm doing extra well. I'm from home today, as I suspect most others are, and I'm just getting all ready in the chat as well today. So there's people already join us, as you said from this morning, fantastic, where Michelle took the chat. Always with the chat, anything. So any thoughts, comments, or questions are fantastic. Guests want to hear them. I know William's thinking humanities, and Tala as well is planning her future degree program. So definitely ask your questions if there's a module what you want to know or something in there you want to find out, our guests want to hear, and we can chat about anything else as well, because I just love to hear how everyone's doing and what they're up to for the hour as well. With the chat, sometimes it can get a little bit fast. So on the top right, there's a pin button. So just press that and that lets you manually scroll through. And if you have a question but don't want to put it in the chat, or you think of something after the session, a student hub at open.ac.uk. But apart from that, anything goes, and we'd love to hear anything that you're thinking or want to ask.
Brilliant, absolutely. That's fantastic, HJ. So you can make a start by telling us where you are in the country. I know some of you have been talking about what the weather's like, which modules you're interested in. We've also got a word cloud with how are you feeling right now. So with these word clouds, where there are three options, you need to put three things in, or the computer will not submit your answers. But you don't have to put three things in, you just need to put a full stop or a cross, etc. If you can only think of one or two, that's absolutely fine. We'd also like to know which level you're studying, what you're studying, why you're studying, and what you're most excited about and most worried about today. So fill those in, and as I say, talk to each other in the chat. Well, our first session that we're going to be looking at is choosing between A112 and A113. Cultures or revolutions. So I'm joined by Nicola Watson, who is a professor of English literature and is working on designing A112 cultures. Welcome, Nicola.
Hello. How lovely to be here and
Oh,
get a chance
good.
to talk to you all.
Oh, wonderful. Where are you right now in the country and how's the weather?
I'm sitting in a shed in Oxford and the weather is pretty good.
Oh, good. Excellent. No, I hear it's nice that way. And Richard Marsden, who is a historian by trade and has been making A113 revolutions. And you're also the director of teaching for the Schools for Arts and Humanities. Welcome, Richard. And whereabouts are you? And what's the weather doing there?
Hi, Karen. Thank you very much for having me. I'm near Cardiff in Penarth on the seashore, and the weather's quite nice. I should say that hopefully not, but we may have a visitation from my 2-year-old at some point. I've given him strict instructions to stay downstairs, but he's not very good at following orders. So fingers crossed.
Oh, well, everybody's welcome here. And in these remote ways of working, it's certainly changed things. My dog's been sitting on my lap most of the session, but has gone outside now. Here in Northampton, it's sunny, and Devon is quite overcast. So lots of different weather going on. I'm in West Wales at the moment, and it's very blustery right now. So, yes. Right, first things first. Why did you both decide to make these two new modules? Can you fill us in, Richard?
Yeah, so we used to have at level one in the arts and humanities, we had a kind of a full level one that was interdisciplinary. So what that meant is that students kind of, if you were studying part-time, you did a year's worth of interdisciplinary studies, all 8 discipline areas, and then the following year you did another year of interdisciplinary study, all 8 discipline areas. And what students were telling us, quite understandably, is that they wanted to get on and start studying their chosen degree subject. They wanted to kind of get their teeth into their discipline a little bit earlier. So we've these new 2 new modules kind of replace the second part of level one, and give students a chance to kind of dig into to choose between 2 sets of 4 disciplines and really get their teeth into what they're going to go on and study at level 2 and level 3 for the rest of their degree.
So you've split 8 into 8 things into 2 different areas. That must have been very complex, Nicola. How did you go about splitting them up?
Well, that was just a sort of edict, really. And there are different ways of splitting them up, but we've split them up this way. So we put history together with philosophy and religious studies and music, and then we put English literature, which is my subject, of course, along with classical studies and art history and creative writing. And we've had the most fascinating time making it, really. It's been a blast because, of course, all of those disciplines talk to each other in all sorts of interesting ways. But it also means that there's just more space and time for us to introduce people to those different disciplines and for those different disciplines to talk to each other.
That sounds fantastic. Excellent. And we've got the links to the modules in the chat that HJ will put in there. So you can see the A112 webpage and the A113 webpage as well. Well, I wonder if you could give us a flavour, I guess, of what each module is about then, because those discipline areas, I guess, invoke different ideas about what we think. But what in essence is each module about? Should we start with A112, Nicola?
Yes, of course. Well, I suppose really what we're offering is a tour of some really remarkable places and artworks, along with a flavour of each discipline. So we're taking people off, first of all, with classical studies to Athens and to Rome and to Delphi. And then we're taking a tour of portrait culture and country house architecture and protest art, including graffiti, with art history. English literature, we're offering Shakespeare, 2 of Shakespeare's comedies, which are very, very exciting, Twelfth Night and Midsummer Night's Dream. And then we're offering, in fact, 2 novels, Jane Eyre and Great Expectations. And then creative writing takes you on this incredible journey about how to write, and ending up with travel writing more generally. So, here we are sitting in lockdown. I think it could promise you quite a tour of the world if you take this course.
Well, absolutely. And I can see why you called it cultures. And I guess students who
Hmm.
are, interested in exploring the arts would certainly expect to find such things in the curriculum. But Richard, I mean, revolutions, that's quite a different take on students sort of beginning their degree down an arts pathway, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the ways these modules work is that you kind of do the first part of level one, which is A111, introducing the arts and humanities, and you kind of see which disciplines float your boat, and then you can kind of decide which out of A112 cultures and A113 revolutions to choose. So, I mean, A113 works slightly differently from A112. It's got different disciplines, as Nicola said. So that's history, music, philosophy, and religious studies. And rather than kind of looking at each discipline in turn, it uses all 4 disciplines to look at a series of 4 revolutions or kind of revolutionary moments. So the first part is about the 16th century religious reformation in Europe and the print revolution, the technological print revolution that came with that. The second block is about the French Revolution, which is kind of, the archetypical kind of, it's the thing we measure all other revolutions against, I think, when we're talking about this kind of thing. The third block is kind of the revolutionary aftermath of World War One. So that's the Russian Revolution, the kind of Spartacist uprising in Germany, the Irish Civil War, that kind of thing. And then the final block is the 1960s, which is kind of, a period of social and cultural revolution. So, changes in the civil rights movement and, the I suppose the rise of kind of feminism. We look at that through girl bands, 1960s girl bands. So, each block is kind of looked at from the perspective of all four disciplines. And then I think it's worth saying that the final, this applies to both modules. The final part of of both modules, block 5, is an opportunity to pick the discipline that you like the most, whether that's, English literature or history or music or art history or whatever. And then you kind of specialize that in that particular discipline in the final block, and that leads up to an end of module assessment, which is like an extended essay where you kind of work a bit more independently in the subject that you intend to go on and study, for your next module at level 2. So it kind of starts out with 4 disciplines. Both modules start out with 4 disciplines, but that you end up working solely in the one that you're going to go on and study, at least for your next module.
Well, it sounds super exciting. And I know there's lots of conversations in the chat. I don't know which one I would choose. HJ, well, I know which one you'd choose.
It's probably the history and revolutions. It
Yeah.
sounds fantastic. But Leanne says as well that the rise of feminism sounds very interesting indeed. So definitely piqued her interest there. But a lot of people are booked onto those modules and really excited to get started. And we're sharing the links in the chat as well. But if there's any particular question that you have about the modules, I know our guests would love to hear it. But overall, we're just really excited, and we're really glad we've signed up for these.
Oh, that's brilliant. So, how then, Nicola and Richard, are people going to make choices? Because they both sound very, very different, but super interesting. And I love the way that you've combined those things together. Nicola, how would you advise people can decide on which one to take?
Well, I have a sort of sympathy, how difficult it would be. I'd like to take the other course that while I've been making this one, but I think really my advice would be that you will have been taking A111. And A111 will have given you a flavor of all these different sorts of approaches. So it sort of comes down to what really inspired you or got you excited in A111. Of course, you may already have chosen what you want to study at level 2, in which case that will determine your choice. But if you haven't, then what we thought was that we would create a little poll for you as a sort of test to see which bits attracted you most. Because the thing is that studying at university level is a big commitment of time and sort of personal investment, and I think it's very important to study the thing that really you have an affinity with. So that's why this poll, and I have this belief that we've actually got a slide of it. Have we, Karen,
Well,
or shall I
I
just
don't know if
recite them?
anyone ever made a slide of such things, but you can recite them, and HJ is going to talk to
Okay.
people about them, because the whole idea was from A111, which things people most enjoyed, wasn't it, Nicola?
That's right. So here's we picked out some of the bits that we know lots of students absolutely love, and here goes. And I'm going to read them. I'm going to read them off a piece of paper because I don't know them by heart, and I shall read them slowly. Okay. So first one. Did you really specially enjoy seeing Mi Kyung Shin reworking classical sculptures in soap? Or did you really like reading poetry about animals in the Faber Book of Beasts? Or did you really find thinking about Mary Wollstonecraft's vindication of the rights of woman the thing that really grabbed your imagination? Did you like looking at the portraits of Elizabeth I as historical sources? Or what really increased your passion? Was it keeping a writer's notebook? I like to keep a writer's notebook myself. Um, what about the virtual field trip to Wimbledon to study Buddhism? What about the Benin sculptures and the business of learning to look at them and understand them culturally? Or finally, did you especially enjoy listening to Crazy Blues by Mamie Smith, that 1920 piece of music? And all of those are different examples, of the different disciplines. And it is really a question of, around the arts and humanities, partly just a way of looking at culture. We're all looking at cultures one way and another. It's just a question of one's approach. And indeed, I suppose, the material. So, what I would like to know is what's happening in the chat pane now, since I can't see you.
They're probably all talking about cake again.
Yes.
It is lunchtime. Brilliant. A lot of people are liking creative writing, HJ.
We are. We really like creative writing, and Robin says definitely creative writing. And Robin's actually looked into doing some specific writing courses to grow skills prior to the new module as well, which sounds really good idea. We have got a couple of questions as well. A lot of people want to do both of the new modules because both of them sound really interesting. Especially Roxanne is interested in art, history, and religion. Is it possible to do both of the new modules?
I think that's
Shall I?
a question for Richard. Yes.
Yes. So it it's it's it is possible to do both modules, but you can't count both towards your degree. So you'd kind of be giving yourself an extra year's worth of study, which you may want to do. But I should also say that choosing one module doesn't mean you can't go on and study the other subjects later on. So it depends what degree you're kind of thinking of moving on to or thinking of taking. But say you were going to take, our broad-based arts and humanities degree, you could do A113, and then you could still go on and study art history or English at level 2 or level 3. So it's not a case of kind of making a choice now that irrevocably binds your decisions forever. It's all quite fluid, and you can move between degrees and you can move between modules. So hopefully that kind of reassures you a little bit.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Richard. Now, HJ, people have been saying what they've particularly enjoyed doing and seeing. So do you want to fill us in?
Yes. So Peter absolutely loves the Faber Book of Beasts. William enjoyed all the history parts. I don't think there was anything in particular that he didn't enjoy about that. Victoria liked Elizabeth I, Benin, and Mary Wollstonecraft. And Shirley enjoyed writing about the Benin bronzes for A100, and she plans to see them when she gets the chance. Leanne actually has a good related question as well. Leanne says, I would love English literature, but she's doing forensic psychology. Is there anything on OpenLearn you'd recommend to just satisfy her interest?
Oh, Nicola, that's one for you.
Oh, there's a good question. Well, I mean, as it happens, we're just about to put a piece of this new course onto OpenLearn in the next 2 or 3 months. It's the long piece which takes an interest in the grand tour and the different arts associated with it, and that includes poetry. Specifically, it includes some very famous poetry by Lord Byron. So, I mean, that would be one way of going about it. But I mean, it's a good question, and I realise that I haven't looked at OpenLearn recently with a thought of wondering exactly what there is for English literature there, and I shall do that immediately I'm off air, because I don't like to be caught out like that.
Brilliant. Well, if you want to drop us an email, we can forward that to Nicola. So when she does come up with her suggestions, she can let us know. But OpenLearn has some great search functions, and I defy anyone to go on there and start searching and not find anything, because there's so much interesting content there. Right, now you two, we're nearly out of time, so I wonder if we might have a final pitch for those who do need to choose between each module, about why they should choose your module. So Richard first, if you could say why you think students should choose A113.
Yeah, sure. So A113 gives you the chance to look at some kind of big, radical moments of historical change in a really exciting way, I think. And what's exciting is that it allows you to do that from the perspective of 4 different disciplines. So you look at one thing from 4 different disciplinary perspectives, and that's how you get a really thorough and detailed understanding of it. Plus, as I mentioned before, at the end of the module, you get to pick your discipline and work in it, and do something that's kind of a bit more challenging, a bit more extensive, and a bit more independent than anything you've done before. And that's what sets you up for studying at level 2.
Brilliant. Thank you, Richard. And Nicola, why do you think students should choose A112 Cultures?
Okay, so our course has all the advantages of Richard's course, but better. We do we do from perspective of 4 different disciplines, just like Richard's course. We do great chance to do your favorite stuff for a good long time at the end of the module. But we have a load of fantastic works of genius and remarkable places to go to. Everybody should study Athens and Rome and Delphi. Everybody should study Byron and the Brontes and Dickens and Shakespeare. Everybody should have a look at portraits and think about what they mean. And frankly, everybody should have a go at creative writing. And we allow everybody to do all those things, whatever you choose to do, by the end of the module.
Oh, well, you certainly make the choice very difficult, you two. I feel for our students who are going to have to decide, but you're both certainly very, very passionate, and they sound like incredible modules. And I'm sure that whichever one our students take will fill them with lots of delight and nourishment in the next academic year. So, Richard and Nicola, thank you so much for joining me. That's been absolutely fantastic. And we're going to have to end the session now, because we're going to have a little bit of a video break. Any other questions we haven't answered, HJ?
No, we've done really well. A lot of people are still struggling to choose which module they study, but yeah, we're just really excited to these modules. And if there is something that you think of after that we did miss, remember, just email us, studenthub@open.ac.uk, and we or our fantastic guests would love to let you know. But overall, we've had a fantastic session. A lot of people enjoyed the previous modules and looking forward to the next ones.
Brilliant. Well, I'm glad we didn't have a widget with asking students which one to choose, because I think Nicola and Richard would go and have to do a arm wrestle or something like that afterwards. So yeah, wonderful stuff. Okay, thank you very much, HJ. Stay tuned, because next we're going to look at D311, crime, harm and state. So we'll be back just after these short video breaks, and I'll see you in 5 minutes. See you then.